Throughout history, Earth has endured some of the most terrifying natural disasters, from floods that have drowned entire civilizations to hurricanes that ravaged cities. However, even these catastrophic events pale in comparison to the hypothetical but immensely powerful Hypercane. Imagine this: winds screaming through the atmosphere at speeds of 500 miles per hour, ripping across the planet with a fury that lasts not just for hours or days, but for weeks. Such a scenario is no fantasy. Hypercanes, though theoretical, represent a level of destruction that far surpasses anything humanity has ever known. The formation of a hypercane would require sea surface temperatures to skyrocket to a blistering 122 degrees Fahrenheit. To put that into perspective, that's a full 22 degrees Fahrenheit hotter than the highest ocean temperature ever recorded, which occurred in Kuwait in July 2020, when waters reached a scorching 100 degrees Fahrenheit. What could cause such a drastic rise in temperature? Scientists speculate that massive events, such as the impact of a powerful asteroid or comet, the violent eruption of a supervolcano, or even an enormous underwater volcanic eruption, could heat the oceans to such dangerous levels. The energy released from these cataclysmic events could trigger the formation of a hypercane, setting off a chain of destruction unlike anything seen before. Unlike modern hurricanes, which typically only reach heights of about 6 miles into the lower stratosphere, hypercanes would extend much higher, soaring up to 25 or even 35 miles into the upper stratosphere. This dramatic difference in height would have profound consequences for the atmosphere. The most powerful recorded hurricane in terms of wind speed was Hurricane Patricia, which reached a maximum of 215 miles per hour at its peak. However, hypercanes would dwarf this, with winds potentially blasting at a staggering 600 miles per hour. The sheer force of such winds would decimate anything in their path, obliterating buildings, uprooting trees, and even altering the landscape itself. One of the most terrifying aspects of hypercanes is their longevity. While current hurricanes typically dissipate after a few days, a hypercane could last for weeks or even longer. The storm system itself could be as large as North America, swirling relentlessly over the ocean, and potentially triggering more hypercanes as it moves. However, not all hypercanes would be massive in scale. Some could be as small as 15 miles across. These smaller hypercanes, while still immensely destructive, would lose strength as they drifted into cooler waters. Yet even a diminished hypercane would have the potential to leave a path of devastation in its wake. Perhaps the most alarming consequence of a hypercane is its potential to severely damage the Earth's ozone layer. Unlike present-day hurricanes, which remain in the lower atmosphere, hypercanes would push into the upper stratosphere, where they could disrupt and deplete the ozone layer. The ozone layer serves as a critical shield for our planet, absorbing much of the sun's harmful ultraviolet radiation. Without this protective layer, life on Earth would be exposed to dangerously high levels of radiation, leading to a spike in skin cancers, genetic mutations, and the collapse of ecosystems. Plants, animals, and even humans would struggle to survive in a world where the ozone layer had been compromised by hypercanes. The long-term effects could be so severe that they would reshape life on Earth for generations to come. While hypercanes remain a theoretical threat, other cosmic forces present very real dangers to our planet. One such threat comes from our own sun. A massive solar flare, for example, has the potential to wreak unimaginable havoc on Earth. Unlike natural disasters like earthquakes or tsunamis, a solar flare wouldn't directly cause physical destruction, but its effects would be just as devastating. A solar flare is a sudden burst of intense radiation from the sun, and if a powerful one were to hit Earth, it could knock out the planet's entire electronic infrastructure. In 1859, the Carrington event was the most powerful solar storm ever recorded. During this event, telegraph systems across Europe and North America were rendered inoperable, with some telegraph wires even catching fire. People in different parts of the world woke up in the middle of the night, thinking it was morning because the skies were illuminated with brilliant auroras, even in regions where auroras are never seen, like the Caribbean. Now imagine such an event occurring in today's world, with our heavy reliance on technology. Satellites could be knocked out of orbit, power grids could fail, and communication systems could be rendered useless. The global economy would collapse, with transportation, medicine, banking, and essential services all grinding to a halt. The aftermath would take years, if not decades, to recover from, with costs reaching into the trillions of dollars. The sheer scale of the destruction would plunge society into chaos, as people scrambled to survive without access to food, water, and other essentials. Another potential cosmic disaster comes in the form of gamma-ray bursts. These bursts of high-energy radiation occur when massive stars collapse or when two neutron stars collide. If a gamma-ray burst were to happen within 200 light-years of Earth and its deadly radiation was directed at our planet, the results would be nothing short of catastrophic. The gamma rays would tear apart our atmosphere, stripping away the ozone layer and exposing life to lethal doses of ultraviolet radiation. Marine life, which is highly sensitive to changes in radiation levels, would be decimated, leading to a collapse of oceanic ecosystems. On land, the increased radiation would lead to mass extinctions and a dramatic decline in biodiversity. Even if the gamma-ray burst occurred farther away in our galaxy, the side of Earth facing the burst would be sterilized, leaving that hemisphere lifeless. Closer to home, Earth faces the threat of supervolcanoes. Yellowstone National Park sits atop one of the world's largest supervolcanoes, and while it hasn't erupted in over 640,000 years, the possibility of another eruption remains. If Yellowstone were to erupt, the consequences would be dire. A massive plume of lava and ash would shoot miles into the air, darkening the skies and covering vast regions in a thick layer of ash. Buildings would collapse under the weight of the ash, and transportation would grind to a halt. More concerning, however, would be the long-term effects. The sulfur released into the atmosphere would block out the sun, causing global temperatures to plummet in what's known as a volcanic winter. Crops would fail, leading to widespread famine, and the global climate would be thrown into chaos for years. The eruption would also trigger massive earthquakes and tsunamis, adding to the destruction. Beyond natural disasters, Earth may also face threats from the deep reaches of space. Wandering black holes, for example, are regions of space where gravity is so strong that not even light can escape. Most black holes are stationary, anchored at the centers of galaxies, but some, known as wandering black holes, drift through space. Recently, scientists discovered the first wandering black hole in the Milky Way. This black hole, which is 7 times the mass of our Sun, is currently 5,200 light-years away, but its discovery raises the possibility that one day, a wandering black hole could pass through our solar system. If this were to happen, the gravitational pull of the black hole would disrupt the orbits of the planets, potentially sending Earth careening into the black hole's event horizon, where it would be torn apart by the immense gravitational forces. Even more grounded threats, like sinkholes, remind us of the unpredictable nature of Earth. Sinkholes form when groundwater dissolves the rock beneath the surface, creating empty caverns. When the surface collapses into these caverns, it forms a massive hole that can swallow everything in its path. In 2022, a sinkhole in New York City swallowed a parked van, and in Florida, entire homes have been lost to these sudden formations. Sinkholes may not seem as dramatic as hypercanes or black holes, but they serve as a reminder that even the ground beneath our feet is not always as solid as it seems. From hypercanes with winds strong enough to obliterate entire regions to the terrifying thought of a wandering black hole, these potential disasters showcase the fragile nature of life on Earth. While many of these events remain hypothetical, they underscore the importance of understanding the forces that shape our planet and the universe. Stay tuned to Waves Discovery as we continue to explore the mysteries of our world and beyond.